For us, the stakes could hardly be higher. Event films of all kinds have continued to perform well. But for the middle ground of genre movies, from which, in my experience, most original work and talent tends to emerge, the market is, if anything, increasingly brutal. In the US and half the countries of Europe, though not here, cinema going actually fell last year, along with DVD sales. Here in Britain, we want, in fact, I'd argue that we need our creative industries to remain at the forefront of the new digital economy. But as Neelie Kroes, the Vice President of the European Commission, made clear in a speech last November, we need flexibility in the system, not the straitjacket of a single model. The business models which content is produced and distributed can be as varied and innovative as the content itself. That's her quote. She went on to acknowledge the ongoing importance of rehabilitating a respect for copyright among consumers. Now, I've argued for as long as I can remember that these two issues, flexibility and respect, are quite inextricably linked. In truth, there are acres of common ground between the technology and the content sectors, and within the film business between suppliers and retailers. And clearly, neither group can succeed without the other. So what am I suggesting beyond the fact that there are almost certainly no magic bullets? Well, here's a recipe for copyright rehabilitation, or at least an outline of some of the things that I feel are in our best short and long-term interests if we can achieve them. Firstly, let's take a cool-headed focus on the facts and have no truck with historical misinformation such as the internet's imploding or breaking apart, because the last time I looked, I'm pretty sure it was still there. And alongside this, now that the judicial review process that followed the Digital Economy Act is complete, it's time for the government to press ahead with implementing the Act in accordance with the will of Parliament as expressed now almost 2 years ago. Next, a vital step for the technology sector is to signpost legitimate search options far more clearly, and flipping the point around to actually delete links to sites that continue to promote illegally sourced content. When doing so, they'd be deflating the income derived by illegal websites through advertising or subscriptions. And they'd be cleansing their networks of infringing material at the very time that the rollout of superfast broadband is pumping up demand for audio-visual content in a way that none of us could have imagined 5 years ago. It's vital for film content providers that online VOD services begin to flourish and start to deliver significant returns. So in short, what I'm advocating here is nothing less than a modern-day common-sense code of ethics for all aspects of the search industry. Number 3, as soon as practical, after the Intellectual Property Office's current consultation on adjustments to the copyright regime, adjustments which to my mind seem modest and reasonable, could a tender please go out to advertising agencies, particularly digital ad agencies, for a new public information campaigns. It should clarify, in plain, stress-free English, how copyright actually enhances our enjoyment of life by enabling and sustaining content and experiences that, in reality, delight and inform us. There is any amount of IP guidance for businesses, but not, I think, really clear current advice for everyday consumers. Fourthly, if a new UK digital copyright exchange does emerge from the Hargreaves and more recently Hooper reviews, I hope the government will ensure that it focuses solely on information to assist licensors and licensees to link up, rather than attempting to reinvent the wheel, because the wheel as we know it is called commercial trading, and it runs pretty smoothly. Just because the copyright system has been reviewed on any number of occasions in recent years does not necessarily mean that it requires wholesale reform. Self-evidently, rights holders have adapted as times have changed. Point 5 is one for the industry itself. There remains an overwhelming need in anti-piracy communications to get the tone as well as the message exactly right. To come alive in a compelling way, that needs to, and it has to, be unambiguous, single-minded, and entirely relevant to the audience it seeks to address. That last point I think is the most important. We've got to find a tone that young people regard as relevant, interesting, and which they can attach themselves to. In the social media age, it's the brands that enter into a meaningful dialogue with their customers, with a little give and take on both sides, that tend to come across best. Point 6, the vast majority of the audience appears perfectly willing to pay for great content when it's presented to them how and when they want it, and at a price that seems to accord with natural justice.